My parents turned my wedding into a funeral. Hi, I'm Helen. Although a year ago I had a different name, and also a perfect life. It all ended in a flash, all because of the horrible tragedy my gorgeous wedding had turned into. If you like stories filled with real feelings and drama, be sure to watch till the end and subscribe to our channel. I wanted to look stunning on the day of my execution. I thought it'd be my wedding day, the happiest day of my life, because I truly believed my parents, who turned out to be heartless hagglers, giving their daughter to a monster for money. Honey, your wedding's in a month, Mom and Dad triumphantly declared at Grandma's funeral. I've been waiting so long. You're the best. In the 21st century, this may sound crazy, but in our family, marriage is a traditional financial deal. Only back then, I didn't treat it like that. On the contrary, I was as happy as a kid. All my dreams about a gorgeous wedding, happy marriage, and a perfect family were about to come true. But before I knew it, the judges had already announced the name of my executioner, whom I considered my prince at the time. You remember Stuart, don't you? Dad kindly asked. Duh, I loved him since I was a kid. Mom and Dad had told me all about their business partner's son, and I always hoped they'd pick him as a candidate for me. Reception on a ship. I adore the sea. And definitely at nighttime, because I'm crazy about pretty lights. Only best photographers to capture every moment of the amazing day. I'd planned my ideal wedding to perfection back in childhood. I loved reading beautiful stories of fairy tale love. Now it was time for my own fairy tale, a happy and romantic one. How could it be otherwise with the best man in the world? And that's who Stuart was for me, till I got to know him better. You have to give birth to 6 children. My future hubby shared his family plans with me. No less than 6, end of story. But I haven't thought about it yet, I objected. What's there to think about? And why would a woman think? I was shocked by his statement, but there was more. You should thank me for marrying you. After all, you're no supermodel. The image of Prince Charming was fading fast, but Stuart's gesture completely ruined his royal image. I hate these filthy things. I never cried so much in my entire life. Disappointment hurts so bad. I spent the whole night burying my dreams and mourning my naive plans. By morning, I came to the inevitable conclusion: there wouldn't be a wedding. Are you insane? My parents were shocked. You have any idea what this will cost us? If we call off the wedding now, I genuinely didn't understand them. It's not the wedding we care about. The awful yelling didn't stop. It's our business. I could get a job. I tried to calm them down. You won't make it a day on your own. My parents felt like strangers to me. You can't do a thing. The conversation was turning into torture. How ungrateful. You think we've invested so much in you just out of the goodness of our hearts? Those words made me want to cry. But I was too exhausted after a night's worth of tears. Too much disappointment over the last 24 hours. Only my parents' words hurt way worse than Stu's behavior. Was I really just a bargaining chip without voting rights? Did my happiness not matter? But I can't live with Stuart, I snapped. You can. We also struggled at first. That confession blew me away. My parents had always seemed like a perfect couple to me, despite their marriage circumstances. But turned out they just accepted their lives, and they want me to do the same. But how? I want true love and real family bliss. But marrying that arrogant, nasty jerk felt equal to being buried alive. That meant all I could do in the situation was escape the hell. Nighttime, inconspicuous clothes, documents, cash, only the essentials. I just had to get to the airport. I stifled my fears and insecurities, the slightest thought that my parents might be right. I was ready to learn how to live from scratch with anyone's help. Work, paying the bills, doing chores. You name it, I'd do it. Only to be able to love. I was ready for anything, but not for what was waiting for me at the airport. Going somewhere? Dad's voice froze my blood. We can't believe you'd stoop this low, I heard Mom's bone-chilling voice. I should have known they'd have followed me, but I was too stressed out to think about that, to realize that the driver would turn me in. I was too disoriented to run and to figure out anything besides the fact that my life had completely derailed. I stood no more chance of running away from Mom and Dad, and definitely no chance to get out of the marriage. And any attempts to escape my cruel fate would only make things worse. I didn't know how to deal with the upcoming wedding, with the fact that I was doomed to live with a monster, that I'd never have a chance to truly love someone, and to feel truly loved. Even thinking about it was too painful. Preparation for my solemn public execution with a funeral. That's all I had. It was what my dream wedding had turned into. My loving parents turned into cruel judges. My dream fiancé into a cruel executioner. My wedding arch, a guillotine. The red carpet, a scaffold. And my banquet became a wake. Smile, you're a bride. My parents suffocated me with their control. Rejoice, you're my future wife. Stuart only made it worse. Wake up, you're digging your own grave, screamed my inner voice. But I had no choice. I mean, other than between ways to die, emotional, in a terrible marriage, or physical, to avoid the first option. Weighing those grim prospects, I realized which was best. I just had to think it all through. It's dangerous standing here, a boat mechanic interrupted my thoughts. It's fine, I waved him off. His obsession irritated me. His constant attention to me seemed odd. Organizers, florists, confectioners, musicians. Everyone was so annoying. I just wanted to get the whole thing over with ASAP. It was so good to know I'd already planned how. What the heck is taking you so long? The stylists are here. Apparently, that'd also be the attitude in our marriage. Even more so in marriage. Coming, I brought myself to reply. Coast lights appeared further and further away, but I didn't just want to leave the land. I wanted to escape the world, just vanish, and that's what I was gonna do. I want my last photo. I grabbed the photographer's arm. I mean, as an unmarried woman, I lied, after seeing his confused face. I want to look more spectacular, I muttered, climbing higher on the railing. That's when I slipped and fell overboard. At that moment, my life tragically ended. Everyone decided so. And at that moment, my life triumphantly began. I decided. Because I didn't just slip. There's a reason I so carefully studied the route of that ship during the wedding preparation. I'd repeatedly sailed along that coast for a reason. And there was good reason I was so insistent about a nighttime reception. I knew the darkness would complicate the search, and my excellent swimming skills, impeccable orientation of the area, and accurate calculations of speed and endurance would help me cover the necessary distance to reach the right boat beyond the reef. But that's where Alex waited for me, the ship mechanic, the only one I could have a heart-to-heart with at the ship during the awful times, the only one who got me and supported me. And I got him, particularly the reason of his constant attention. Turned out, it was the true love I dreamed of, and it was mutual. We're currently living and planning a future together. We had a small, yet the most amazing wedding in the world. I'm over the moon. I knew it was a huge risk, but I had to take control of my life. After all, the prospect was terrible, and only I could change it all. I'm glad I realized it and had the courage to start a new life. Hopefully, my story inspired you. Give it a thumbs up and share this video. And don't forget, this channel still has a ton of interesting stuff in store for you. My daughter is ashamed of me because I'm overweight. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm 37, and I became a victim of body shaming because of my own insecurities and self-hate. I paid a high price to make things right, but I hope it worked. You can find more motivational and inspiring stories like mine on this channel, so make sure you subscribe. The day I blacked out and hit the ground is a day I'll never forget. At that moment, I had a near-death experience, but all I could think of was how pathetic I must look. I couldn't help but think about my looks, and I had a good reason for that. 3 months earlier. Do you have any idea how obese you are? My daughter's words shocked me to my core. You're embarrassing me. They fat shame me at school because of your weight. I don't want you anywhere near me. Don't ruin my life. I know how harsh teenagers can be, how cruel they can be, humiliating each other for any reason. I understood my daughter and her desire not to be an outcast, but it didn't help ease my own pain and resentment. I suffered because I couldn't take my daughter to school in the morning, or pick her up from the gym in the evening, or spend a weekend with her in the park. I had no one and nothing but her. Not a thing. My whole life had gone downhill when I put on weight after childbirth, and I never had enough willpower to lose it. Eating less is the key to my trim figure. Top models from magazines always said. I said these words like a mantra, running at the gym for hours every day, and water was my only food. I didn't want to just do moderate exercise and eat healthy food. I needed to get in shape as soon as possible, as long as I'm motivated, as long as I'm in the right mood. In just 3 months, I barely recognized myself. I saw a slender, fragile girl in the mirror. Although I looked a little tired, it was totally worth it. I'd finally take my daughter to school, and she'd be proud to be next to me. And that's exactly what happened. It was such a beautiful day. I was over the moon, until I ended up in an ambulance. She's so weak and malnourished, I heard the doctor say with concern. She'll need serious rehab. I knew I couldn't say no if I wanted to live, but I was scared to get my old body back. It's okay, Mom. My daughter calmed me down. You're all right. That's the only thing that matters. You have no idea how afraid I was for you. Still, I'll try not to put on too much weight. I tried to appear calm, even though I felt like running for the hills. So I guess I'll become overweight as I age too, Melanie said suddenly. We were told at school, heredity and all that stuff. Well, I don't know, I said confused. I don't want to get fat and be miserable. My daughter's words got stuck on repeat in my head. I wanted to correct her, to save her from these fears, but I didn't know how. Rehab was over. I started wearing my oversized clothes and ratty sneakers again. I'll take the bus. Just don't be mad, Melanie said and hurried away. But I didn't hold a grudge. How could I blame her for anything if I was too disgusted to look at myself in the mirror? You have to fight your fears, encouraged the cheerful therapist. Here, why not take part in a beauty contest? I don't want my beautiful daughter to have these insecurities. I wanted her to live her life to the fullest. But how can I teach her that if I can't teach myself? I'd like to take part in your contest. I couldn't believe I was saying these words. Fill in this form, please, said the receptionist. All right, I replied in a friendly manner. But I still couldn't believe I'd signed up for something this public. Mom, are you out of your mind? Melanie yelled. I don't want to see any of this. My stunned daughter couldn't calm down. Well, you'll just have to. It's 2 weeks away. I had to prove to Melanie that other people's opinions shouldn't hurt her, that beauty standards are relative. I wanted to set an example for Melanie, and I was finally living it. I spent so many hours learning to walk with confidence, to stand beautifully, to turn around with elegance, and it all wasn't that difficult, at least when I was at home alone. "Why are there so many seats in the hall?" I asked, surprised, at the next rehearsal. "The press is now interested in the contest," the organizer said proudly, "so there will be more people." I was lost for words. "The whole country? The whole country will see you in a swimsuit?" Melanie was about to throw a hissy fit. "Do you have any idea what people at my school will think of this?" It hurt to hear that. But I understood her well, because I was a teenager myself once and felt like one again. "I don't want to participate in the contest." It was very painful, but I didn't want to hurt Mel. Going back to my dull and boring life wasn't just difficult. "Broccoli again? I told you it wouldn't help," my daughter grunted as usual. "It'll make things worse." What if she's right and everything goes back to how things were, and I never try to change our lives for the better? Maybe I'll regret it later. "I changed my mind. May I apply again?" I begged the receptionist. "Welcome back," the photographer said, excited. "But you'll have to catch up." "No problem," I tried to sound brave. In fact, I was a bundle of nerves thinking about how to survive such a big contest, how to overcome all my fears, and how Melanie would react. "I guess I can accept it," she said suddenly. "Do whatever you want, but I'm not going to watch you epically fail." I really hoped she'd change her mind, but it didn't happen, and I needed her support so much because I was worried sick. Crowded hall, annoying reporters, dazzling spotlights. I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. "Rachel, your turn." Panic felt like a boulder sitting on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Everything was foggy. I felt no pain when I fell. I don't even remember how I got up or how I got back. My fears came true. Everyone laughed at me. How arrogant I was, and the steep price I paid. Melanie will definitely learn about this at school. There will be nothing to save us from being ridiculed. "Rachel, you win! Congratulations!" I thought I was going crazy. "Come on now, hurry up! You need to concentrate." She deserves first place. After all, not only is she beautiful, but also incredibly inventive. This kind of self-control can only be admired. Turned out, I walked down the runway with great confidence. And when I broke my heel, I took my shoes off and came back with a smile. No one noticed my inner drama or my insecurities and fears. It was all in my head. If only my daughter could understand this. "Sorry I didn't believe in you, Mom." Melanie rushed towards me. "Wait, you watched the contest?" I was pleasantly surprised. "Of course I did. Did you think I could resist? I'm so proud of you, and I'm so sorry I was embarrassed of you." "I'm also sorry. I'm ashamed of myself. But I hope you'll follow my example and never make my mistakes. Embrace yourself, love yourself, value yourself. Turns out it's all possible if you're not guided by your fears and others' opinions about you." I'm glad I did the contest, and for the lessons it taught my daughter. I hope you were inspired by my life-changing story. Please like and share this video. And don't forget, there are a lot more interesting and exciting videos for you on our channel. I figured out my hubby had a lover by these 5 simple red flags. Hi, I'm Claire, and I'm 31. Not too long ago, I was happily married. Your husband is cheating on you. My bestie knocked me off my feet. I'm sorry, but I'm your friend and had to tell you. What are you talking about? My family is rock solid, I fired back. But I saw him with another woman. They were kissing in a parking lot, she insisted. I was 99% sure she was mistaken. But what if she wasn't? The mere thought terrified me. Is something bothering you? You seem spaced out, my hubby pointed out. No, everything's fine, I stalled. But my bestie's words were still ringing in my head, and I didn't know how to dispel doubts. To ask him point blank? Lame? Who would confess? There should be another way. But what is it? I'm going to bed, Sam said, but I didn't want to sleep. There was one thing on my mind. What could give a cheater away? It seemed a good idea to go through his laundry. The smell of perfume, traces of lipstick, anything. I searched for the smallest clue. Gotcha. Red hair? Definitely not mine. I literally was boiling with rage. I was just about to give Sam a tongue lashing of his lifetime. Forgot to tell you, I stopped by my sister in the morning. My nearly ex-husband said. She invited us for a barbecue. I knew Sam's sister quite well, and I knew she was a hugger. It was definitely her hair. I'd never felt so stupid in my life. I'm gonna miss you, sweetheart, my husband said before going. Can't wait for you to return, I replied. He had business trips all the time, and I always was cool about it. Until that chat with my bestie. That time when he was away, I was restless. Gotta stay here a bit longer, too much work. I miss home so much. Love you. Sam wrote a few days into his business trip, but did he write the truth? I miss you so much. The least you could do is send me a photo, and Sam didn't keep me waiting. But in his photo, I found one suspicious detail. I couldn't wait for Sam's return. In particular, I wanted to know who was that knockout who'd taken his picture. Imagine my surprise when he showed up together with her. That figure was not something I could mistake. This is Samantha, my assistant. Thank you for the lift, Sam dropped casually, and I didn't know what to say. I seemed to have overthought it again, because an elderly lady was definitely not his style. I was ready to accept it was all in my head. And I didn't think about my bestie's words for an entire week, until one day I needed Sam's car for a grocery run. Pain, resentment, terror. The emotions overwhelmed me. Thank goodness at least one of you is home. Sam's friend snapped me out of it. Could you pass this to Sam? I wanted to thank him for lending me his car. It slowly started to make sense to me. Oopsie, you found my girlfriend's bra. The man blushed. Sorry about that. Awkward. I was so embarrassed for all my suspicions, for doubting my beloved husband. The only thing I proved was that he was the best. Still, my bestie kept insisting he was not. I saw your Sam with his lover again, my friend said, as soon as I brushed off all suspicion. But I decided I've had enough of her stories and paranoia. And then my husband himself gave me a reason. Baby, let's chill at our spot later today. This surprise text would have delighted me if it wasn't for some details in it. In years of our marriage, he'd never called me baby, and we didn't have any cafe we could call our spot. Well, I was trying to spice up our communication a bit. Sam made a reasonable argument. I wanted to start new traditions. My paranoia was replaced by the feeling of guilt again. You wanted it, he said with reproach. Like in all those romantic movies you look up to. And again, I felt silly. But I didn't know how to stop trying to suss my husband out. Doubts, suspicions, nerves. All this had me completely exhausted, and I decided to conduct my final investigation while Sam was on yet another business trip. And I vowed that would be it. An in-depth analysis of my hubby's social media profiles took me a whole day, and it all seemed clean, except for one photo out of a hotel room. The same cute landscape was posted by one of his female friends. The same angle, lighting, details. It all pointed to the fact that Sam was a dead man walking. This is a motel, for crying out loud, Sam retorted. Anybody could be staying there sometime or another. His argument seemed legit, but there was no stopping me. Under the pretense of visiting my relatives, I secretly went to find that motel to check who stayed there and when. But it wasn't a motel that I found, it was a decent house. There was no point in going back, and what I learned behind that door completely astounded me. Do you know this man? I asked the lady who answered the door. Sure, she seemed surprised. It's my husband Sam. He's on a business trip now. Do you want me to pass on a message for him? I was shocked, speechless. Hey, you all right? I heard, as if through a dream. It seemed like I woke up in my own home. Same decor, souvenirs, and Sam's photos. But there was some other woman next to him, not me, plus 2 kids by his side. you should go to a hospital," the wife of my husband said to me caringly. "You might want to see a doctor too in a minute," I began. And boy, did I have a story to tell. She also had some interesting input. When the storm of emotions cooled down, we put 2 and 2 together and realized Sam was a scoundrel and a bigamist. Somehow, he found a loophole and under the disguise of frequent business trips, had 2 families and all was fine and dandy. But the rascal was very wrong, thinking he could get away with it. Monica and I decided to make Sam play our game. Here's what we did. We pretended we were blissfully unaware, but we swapped our homes. "Honey, dinner's ready." "What? What are you doing here?" Sam stuttered. "Duh, this is our house. We bought it after the wedding." I acted surprised. "Are you all right?" I'm fine. Everything's fine," he mumbled. "I just need to go on a business trip right now." "Honey, how was your flight?" Monica met Sam in my house. "Great. Everything's great. Yeah." It seemed he was going to have a stroke. But he got off easy and ended up in a mental facility where Monica and I, of course, visited him. "I'm sorry, I did an awful thing." Sam tried to make excuses. "I didn't mean to." He sure looked miserable, but we weren't going to forgive him. Divorce, court, compensation. He paid us in full for the 3 years of lies. Monica and I kept in touch, though. One thing still beats me. How did he manage to fool me for so long? I could have figured him out much sooner if only I was a bit more attentive and wasn't blinded by love for him. I won't make the same mistake again because I learned to trust my gut and to check everything that causes doubt. I hope you liked my story. Don't forget to like this video and share it. You're in for so much more interesting things on this channel. I asked to be laid to rest with a fork in my right hand. Hey, my name's Kate, and I'm 47. I mean, I could be turning 47 in a month. But instead, I'll have to leave to the sky. And I want to hit this road with a fork in my right hand. You'll get why as soon as you hear my story. On this channel, you'll also find plenty of moving, emotional stories. So be sure to subscribe. 1 month ago. You've got just over a month to live. I so didn't expect to hear that during a routine checkup. The news was surreal. I mean, I was full of energy, plans, hopes. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. I used to tell myself every morning before the diagnosis. Each morning it seemed like there were more than enough days to come. But every night I put off a lot of things. And now that my days are numbered, I just don't know what to do. How do I want to spend them? Only you could pull off a baby shower this great. Thanks, Mom. I loved my daughter's vibrant voice, and I really loved seeing her happy. But that day, I wanted to weep. Preparing for that party, I couldn't imagine never being able to see my grandbaby. I need to tell you something. A million thoughts jumbled in my head. Want to talk about Granny's silverware again? My family laughed. No, I want to make my dream come true, I found myself blurting out. Finally, I heard loud exclamations of approval. They always knew my dream. I'd never traveled and always put it off. Until my family gave me money for my dream cruise 6 months ago. Stop postponing your dream. I decided to save my diagnosis and doc's prognosis for when I returned. I wouldn't bear having them worry for a whole month. And in the meantime, I had 30 wonderful days of vacation ahead. In my mind, I was already on the beach sunbathing, but an abrupt call pulled me back to reality. Katie, I'm so sick. Must be the flu. I heard my mom's weak, hoarse voice. Tell me, what pills did you get me last time? I'll send you a list now, I replied. I knew it was just a cold. I knew Mom would soon recover, as she always did, but I couldn't stop worrying about her. And I kept thinking it could be our last conversation. Sweetie, you didn't have to come all the way here. I knew she'd say that. And she was probably right. But I couldn't help it. Although I was still mad at myself and the circumstances, After all, with each day, I lost more and more time for my last and only journey. And I'd spent the next 10 years hearing Mom's lectures and preaching. Traveling was still my lifelong dream, and I was just a short flight away from it. I wanted to finally enjoy life to its fullest. The anticipation of all that really inspired me, till my hubby returned home from work. Something wrong with the project again? I knew that glum look too well. "I gotta rework all the blueprints," he said bleakly. "In just under 2 weeks, it's a disastrously short deadline." "I'll help," I said out of habit. And only then I realized what a disastrously short time I had myself. "I'm so happy I have you. I love you so much." My husband was over the moon. "I'm sorry your cruise is shifting a bit." He felt so genuinely guilty. "You'll catch up, I promise." I wish, I thought, and kept blaming myself for being so agreeable. How would I relax knowing I'd ditched my husband alone with his problems? 10 days, that's all I had left. But I still hadn't flown out of the state, never dipped my toes in the sea, never visited places I'd read about, and hadn't gone to my favorite singer's concerts. This list could be endless. "Are you Kate?" a flight attendant suddenly asked me, and confirmed my last name. "Your husband called. You need to get off." I genuinely didn't get this mean joke. "Your daughter, she's been in an accident." Time that had recently flown so fast now suddenly stopped. I spent an eternity at the ICU door until a doctor showed up in the hall. "We managed to save your girl." My world stopped spinning. "But she's not stable," the warning gripped me. "Premature birth is not off the cards." Of course, I couldn't think of anything but my daughter and her baby. My heart was breaking. Praying to heaven for their health, I completely lost track of time. "Mom, you're exaggerating as always," my girl protested, barely awake. "Why'd you put off your trip again? I'll be fine." Only her pale face and weak voice spoke otherwise. "Prep the OR, stat." At that point, I wasn't going anywhere, and I had no more energy to be angry about the circumstances. The only thing I wanted to do before death was make sure my family was okay. "Congrats, you have a granddaughter. I don't think I've ever been so happy since the time I had my own girl. We have another Kate in the family, just like you. Isn't it great?" My sweet girl's voice became vibrant again. At that moment, I was on cloud 9 just being with them. But knowing it wouldn't be for long made me miserable. I had no more time for my journey of a lifetime. According to the doc, I only had a couple of days left. So little to enjoy life, and so much to do nothing, just waiting for death. But I wasn't going to sit around and wait. I had to say goodbye to everybody. I couldn't postpone it anymore. I had to wrap up all of my affairs. After all, I'd piled up a ton of them. Like plan my upcoming funeral. 'Cause I wanted to leave in a special way. "I want to be buried with a fork in my right hand," I informed the funeral maker. I knew she'd be confused, so I had to explain. My grandma taught me this when I was little. She always told me to keep the fork after the main course, 'cause it was followed by her delicious dessert. And now I want to keep the fork too, because the best part is yet to come. Especially the best journey of my life that can't be compared to any earthly dream. Now I feel bad about getting mad at myself and circumstances that made me postpone my cruise. 'Cause every time I opted to be with my family. Turned out, my family's more precious to me than any dream, and caring for them is my greatest joy. It doesn't matter anymore how many days, hours, or even minutes I have left. What matters is that at this second, I genuinely realize how happy I am, even if some things in my life didn't go as planned. I know that the best is yet to come. If you liked my story, give it a thumbs up and share this video. And don't forget, tons of interesting and exciting stuff is waiting for you on our channel. I was stalked for years by a stranger until I ended up in his bed. Hi, my name's Emma. I'm 27. Not so long ago, I thought I wouldn't live to this age. I still remember that moment of deep, bone-chilling terror. One day, I woke up in an unknown apartment. I was paralyzed in fear because I didn't understand anything. How did I end up here? And why? Why are my photos here? And who's this grumpy man next to me? I'd seen him a few times, on the street, in the store, near my house. Yeah, almost everywhere. But I never gave it a second thought, until I noticed him taking a picture of me in the park. The last thing I remember is fear, scary thoughts about maniacs, him chasing me across the park, and me gasping for air after fleeing in panic. There was no doubt I was in this madman's house. I was sure he'd kidnapped me, so I was preparing to lose my life. "You're finally awake," he said. All I could do was try to escape, but this was hard since I was only semi-conscious. "Calm down, you're still very weak," the horrible man soothed. "Who are you? What do you want?" I said nervously. "I want to talk to you," he said, trying to justify himself. "I didn't dare for years, thinking you wouldn't understand, that you wouldn't believe I'm your dad." "Of course I won't believe it," I said, shocked. "I have a dad, and he's obviously not a psycho like you." I don't even know where I got the strength to get out, but running into the street was the happiest moment of my life. "Emma, believe me, ask your mother," I heard in the distance, but I couldn't find anything to say to that except insults. "What a strange adventure," my parents said nonchalantly when I told them my unnerving story. They never had much empathy for me, but staying alone after what happened scared me out of my mind. "Can I sleep at your place?" I asked. "Just one night," Mom said sternly. "We've got other things to take care of." I couldn't sleep that night, despite my parents being nearby. I was afraid of every rustle, every squeak. I was afraid the maniac wouldn't give up. I even thought he entered the house at one point. But when I tiptoed toward the noise, things turned out to be much worse. "Are you sure she didn't believe him?" I heard my father say doubtfully. "It doesn't matter now," Mom replied. "I already got even with him by taking her away from him. It's all I wanted." I couldn't believe my ears. Was that maniac my real father? I thought I was just confused after the shock, so when my parents left for work, I rushed to get my mother's documents. You could have knocked me over with a feather. In fact, I learned that complete strangers had raised me. After my mother passed away, my father got remarried when I was little. The woman I thought was my mother adopted me. She was the one who legally terminated all his parental rights after their divorce. And when she remarried, she told me her husband was my dad. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. How could she do this just to get even with Dad for divorcing her? I completely understood him, because only a saint could put up with her awful personality. But I finally understand why I never felt love or affection from my parents. "Stop eating, we don't have much money. No toys, stay quiet. First do the housework and then study. Stop freeloading off us, find a job already." I heard it all my life. I couldn't understand why they treated me this way. Finally, I had a chance to feel parental love, my real dad's love. But I couldn't be sure of it, because he never once tried to contact me over the years, and then he just kidnapped me and scared me to death. "I didn't kidnap you," Dad said, surprised, when I finally found the courage to talk to him. "You fainted on the street, so I took you to my house to recover. I wanted to tell you everything. They took you so far away. I learned to accept it, but then felt so bad because I didn't do anything. I've been looking for you for years, and when I found you, I couldn't approach you out of fear you'd push me away and wouldn't understand. So I was just looking and waiting for the right moment. That moment never came. I just thought you were a maniac, I replied. But now that things are clear, let's try to become a real father and daughter. Bill turned out to be a wonderful man, my best friend, my loving dad, and I finally found a real family. Even though I'm not a child anymore, I'm still happy. Same can't be said for my so-called parents. We need money, those heartless imposters said when they showed up. We know you earn good money, and you owe us. We're your parents, after all. You're no one to me, I retorted. I know the truth, and I'll give you what you deserve. And I kept my promise. In court, they paid for what they'd done. If you like my story, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget, there's so much more interesting stuff on this channel. At 80, I managed to look 25. My name's Megan. Eternal youth used to be my dream. But the price I had to pay for this gift turned it into a curse. And I don't know how to live with it. If you like these kinds of stories, filled with magic and drama, you've got to watch to the end and subscribe to our channel. You're too old for this contract. My agent was not the type to mince words. I did not expect to hear that at 25. My career was already falling apart, and I dreaded thinking about the future. It's time you retire. I was hit with yet another rejection, but I didn't want to end my modeling career. It was all I wanted to do, and I was ready to do anything to cling to what remained of my youth. Take this ring, I heard an angel's beautiful voice. It will give you eternal youth and a legendary career you've never even dreamed of. But you mustn't take it off, ever. It was the most amazing dream I'd ever had. Imagine my surprise when it turned out to be real. The heights I reached were beyond my wildest dreams. Contracts with the best fashion houses, covers of top-selling glossy magazines, offers from the biggest agencies. It lasted decades, and no one could figure me out. I married the most amazing man and had a lovely daughter. My bliss was boundless, until one day it started to crack. Honey, I think I'd be better off in a home. What good am I to you like this? My husband said faintly. Nonsense, I retorted. I still loved him, but it was painful to see him wasting away. My husband's death was the toughest thing I'd ever faced. I was going insane with grief, and my career didn't make me happy anymore. My daughter finally snapped me out of it. Congratulations! You'll soon be a great-grandma. My beloved daughter filled my heart with joy and put a smile back on my face. I didn't notice how my granddaughter grew up, or when my daughter reached the age that used to terrify me. I wish I was as young as you, she often mused. Will you take care of my daughter and her child if something happened to me? Samantha asked me all of a sudden. She's so immature, and I have a bad feeling. You're going to be all right, I comforted her. But I was wrong. Your daughter is dying. A stranger's voice on the phone floored me. I'm her doctor. She's had an accident. The mere thought of losing Samantha terrified me. I'd never been so desperate. Promise me you'll take care of my daughter and her child. Samantha barely moved her lips. I told you I had a bad feeling. And I told you you were going to be all right, I said with full confidence, and made sure it was going to be so. I realized old age is not the scariest thing out there. What's scarier is living a shallow, painful life, burying your loved ones. I'm sure my daughter will use this gift wisely, just like I tried to. I hope you liked my story. give it a thumbs up and share this video. And don't forget, there's lots of interesting stuff on this channel for you. I'd never had a Christmas, so I decided no one else would. Hey, Merry Christmas. My name's Carrie. Although in town, people called me Krampus, and also Grinch, Scrooge. So basically, they hated me. Until I paid dearly for my antics, and I gotta admit, it was for good reason. No one's getting presents because of you. People in town got pretty mad when I rented the entire mall on Christmas Eve. Like you know how to choose them, I replied bitterly. Figure it out. Draw each other some Christmas cards. You're such a buzzkill, they kept whining. When I bought all entertainment venues for the holiday. What do you even know about buzz? I was relentless. Stay home under y'all's Christmas trees. You're stealing our Christmas, they complained when I booked a banquet hall. Why, I'm no thief. I got mad. I bought it. Because I can finally afford it. I've worked like a dog for years, built my business, while you were lazing around for your meager salaries. So now I deserve the best Christmas ever. But we've set it all up here for the orphans, someone in the crowd quietly objected, to throw them a charity ball with entertainment and gifts. I genuinely didn't care about those pathetic townfolk. I'd never talked to them and didn't want to. I couldn't care less about their tasteless presents. I needed them all, so they wouldn't interrupt me when shopping for anything I want. So what about their pathetic fun? I needed the venues, so they wouldn't get in my way while I have a great time. And I definitely didn't care about the silliness they called charity for orphans. I needed my Christmas dinner without any beggars to spoil my mood or appetite. Sweetie, get a hold of yourself. My godmom suddenly showed up on my doorstep. The local saints must have decided she'd be able to pull some strings. After all, on Christmas, we're supposed to help our brothers and sisters. Well, I'm gonna help myself and celebrate properly. I had no patience to put up with her boring preaching. But that wasn't all. Please donate to our shelter. I heard the annoying words. Help those without a home get Christmas dinner and gifts. Well, find a freaking job to get all that. I flipped out. You're so nasty, one of the beggars snapped at me. It put me over the edge, but that wasn't the limit. Happy holidays, my maid started buttering me up. No Christmas bonus this year. I put a stop to the charade. Can we at least take the day off? They yammered on, to celebrate with our families. Of course not. Who's gonna serve me then? I'd run out of patience, and seeing their pathetic faces wasn't on my Christmas list. Get out, I snapped. With my money, I'll find new maids in a flash. I wasn't lonely in my empty mansion. Quite the opposite. I felt like a queen, and I was super excited about my perfect Christmas that I'd so thoroughly planned. But I didn't know my joy would only last a few moments. I don't know how long I lay unconscious. I hardly realized I was still alive, as I couldn't get up. I had no strength to call for help. And besides, there was no one else. My rage from being helpless soon turned to despair. I couldn't believe my life was ending like this, alone in a huge empty house, on an ice-cold floor. For hours, I watched the second hand of the gigantic golden clock in my living room, the only thing in my vision. And that gold didn't bring me joy like it used to. Neither did my valuables, loaded bank accounts, or my thriving business. Without close ones by my side, they were all worthless. Too bad I realized it so late. Miss, we came back for our gloves. I suddenly heard a familiar, cheeky voice. We lost it when you kicked us out, and then we saw you through the window. Are you okay? I had no energy to reply, but I was fully aware my death would be even worse than I'd imagined. I'd get robbed by nasty, poor orphans. In the corner of my eye, I barely saw them scatter across my rooms, and dig through my stuff. I wanted to kick the vile looters out, but every ounce of my strength had gone. Can you hear me? I certainly didn't expect to see a doctor, or finally be able to move, to speak. How'd I get here? The first thing that came out of my mouth. Orphans from the local children's home called an ambulance, the doctor said. Poor kids almost got lost in your house, looking for a phone to call us, and also a first aid kit, if it wasn't for their help, especially Ellie's. I'm afraid to think how things might have ended for you. I was scared to think about that too, especially after I'd already waved goodbye to my life and come up with a bunch of nonsense in that horrible state. Now, I was convinced my surviving was a sign that my great Christmas had to take place. And it was so great to be discharged before it started, 'cause I had to make sure to turn my iron sway into a grand charity ball for orphans, especially for my little heroes. After all, I felt so bad for thinking ugly things about them even at death's door. I was ashamed in front of these unprivileged little ones, and brave Ellie, who had the courage to confront me in front of every town resident, who I so terribly degraded. On the eve of Christmas, its meaning I'd distorted. 35 years ago, there was a time I myself prayed for Christmas miracle, when I was like these orphans. I had no family, presents, or fairy tale. With every year, I only got more bitter from the dashed hopes and wishes, hunger and poverty, neediness and uselessness, till I started greedily seeking my salvation in material wealth and began to fiercely deny my unhappy childhood, till I came up with my crazy, greatest Christmas ever idea to make up for all the pain and disappointment. And only now, looking into the happy eyes of kids with their dream gifts, I realized I'll only be happy by giving them hope and kindness, especially on this marvelous, magical day. But I couldn't stick with just gifts. My mansion is now filled with children's laughter, and my heart with joy, because I'm a mom now. If you're inspired by my happy, life-affirming story, don't forget that on our channel, you'll find a ton of similar stories. Share this video and give it a thumbs up. Share your love, joy, and happiness. Share your kindness with those around you and help your loved ones, especially on this wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas! Take care of yourself and your loved ones.